Hello everyone. In this lecture, I am going to solve the remaining problems of RMO 2010 exam. And here is a review of fourth problem. This is a nice number theory problem, and in this problem, we have to find three distinct positive integers with the least possible sum, such that the sum of the reciprocals of sum of reciprocals of any two integers among them is an integral multiple of the reciprocal of the third integer. Okay, fine. Uh, First of all, the integers are distinct, so we can suppose three distinct integers are. Uh, okay, I want to change the ink color. Okay, that's fine. Let integers are x, comma y, comma z. Then, according to problem, we can write 1 upon x plus 1 upon y equal to alpha upon z. Second, 1 upon y plus 1 upon z equal to beta upon x, and 1 upon z plus 1 upon x equals to gamma upon y. Okay. Now in this problem we have to find integers x, y and z, and we have to eliminate the role of alpha, beta and gamma from here. So what we can do, look at these three equations. uh, if we add 1 upon z to the first equation, 1 upon x to the second, and 1 upon y to the third equation, then we can see the left hand side becomes same. Therefore, from these three equations, we can write the value of 1 upon x plus 1 upon y plus 1 upon z is what? Add 1 upon x, 1 upon z over here, then this becomes what? Alpha plus 1 over z, and from the second equation we have to add 1 upon x here, then this becomes beta plus 1 over x, and add 1 upon y over here, then this becomes gamma plus 1 over y. And all these terms have the same value. Suppose their common value is k. Okay, and now if we take these two terms, then we can write from here, then we can write 1 upon x is what? 1 upon x is actually k upon beta plus 1. Now we equate this with this, then we can write 1 upon y. 1 upon y is k upon gamma plus 1. Similarly, we can write 1 upon z. 1 upon z is what? K upon alpha plus 1. Okay. Now equate the two extreme terms, since 1 upon x plus 1 upon y plus 1 upon z is k. Therefore, if we substitute the value of 1 upon x, 1 upon y, 1 upon z, then we can write k times 1 upon alpha plus 1 plus 1 upon beta plus 1 plus 1 upon gamma plus 1 is equals to k. K and k cancel out. So we get a relation among alpha, beta and gamma from here. 1 upon alpha plus 1 plus 1 upon beta plus 1 plus 1 upon gamma plus 1 is equals to 1. Okay. Uh, Alpha, beta, gamma all are positive integers, and we suppose this function as f of alpha, beta, gamma. Then we can write f of alpha, beta, gamma equals to 1 upon alpha plus 1 plus 1 upon beta plus 1 plus 1 upon gamma plus 1. And it is clear that f alpha beta gamma is a decreasing function in each of the variables alpha, beta, and gamma. Clearly, f alpha beta gamma is a decreasing function in each of the variables alpha, beta, and gamma. And if f alpha beta gamma is a decreasing function in alpha, beta, and gamma, then definitely the upper bound of this function exists. Okay, now move to the next slide. So, upper bound of alpha, beta, gamma will surely exist. Um, Without loss of generality, we can suppose a order relation among three variables x, y, and z. We suppose x less than y less than z. Therefore, we can also develop a order relation among alpha, beta, and gamma. If we look at the previous slide, then we can say that alpha plus 1, beta plus 1 is what? Beta plus 1 equals to kx, and alpha plus 1 equals to ky, and gamma alpha plus 1 is kz, sorry, alpha plus 1 is kz, and gamma plus 1 is ky. And if x less than y less than z, then definitely there is an order relation among alpha, beta, and gamma, and that is beta uh, x less than y less than z, beta less than gamma less than alpha. Okay, this will surely imply beta less than gamma less than, sorry, beta less than gamma less than alpha. Again check. Yeah, beta less than gamma less than alpha, sure. Therefore we can write, therefore okay, it means beta is a smallest integer. Therefore we can bound f of alpha, beta, gamma, we can bound f of alpha, beta, gamma y 3 upon beta plus 1. Okay, because how we get this upper bound? In the definition of f alpha, beta, gamma, we replace alpha and gamma by beta, and in this way we minimize the denominator. Therefore the fraction will be definitely maximized, and this becomes the upper bound. Therefore what we can write from here, 1 less than 3 upon beta plus 1, this implies beta less than 2, and therefore what we can write, beta is 1. And if beta is 1, then we can put the value of beta over here, 1 upon alpha plus 1, beta is 1, this becomes 1 by 2 plus 1 upon gamma plus 1 equals to 1. Therefore 1 upon alpha plus 1 plus 1 upon gamma plus 1 becomes 1 by 2. And also there is an order relation among gamma and alpha. Gamma is less than alpha, and this is also a decreasing function. This is also a decreasing function. There, this will imply 1 upon alpha plus 1 plus 1 upon gamma plus 1 is strictly lesser than 2 upon gamma plus 1. Notice that if we replace alpha by gamma, then actually what we did, we replace alpha by a number which is smaller than alpha. That is, we are minimizing the denominator, and hence this whole fraction will maximize. Therefore, this becomes the upper bound. But what is this sum? This sum is 1 by 2. 1 by 2 less than 2 upon gamma plus 1. This will implies gamma plus 1 less than 4, implies gamma less than 3. Gamma is less than 3. But you can notice that gamma is greater than beta. Gamma is greater than beta. Gamma is greater than beta, and beta is 1. Therefore, the value of possible value of gamma is 2. Gamma is 2. And if gamma is 2, then you can write the value of gamma in this picture. This becomes 1 by 3 is equals to 1 by 2, implies 1 upon alpha plus 1 is 1 by 2 minus 1 by 3, and this difference clearly becomes 1 over 6. Uh, this will implies alpha plus 1 equals to 6. Then what is the value of alpha from here? Alpha is 5. So we get the value of alpha, beta and gamma. Alpha is 5, beta is 1 and gamma is 2. But we have to find out the value of x, y and z. We have to find out the value of x, y and z. So what we can do, okay, now look at these three results. I can write this result here. Beta plus 1 is kx, uh, alpha plus 1 is kz, and gamma plus 1 is ky. Therefore, from these three results, we can say that x is to y is to z equals to what? Beta plus 1 is to gamma plus 1 is to alpha plus 1. Okay, beta plus 1, gamma plus 1, alpha plus 1. Okay, move to the next slide. Uh, Therefore, we can write the relation here. X is to y is to z is what? Beta plus 1 is to gamma plus 1 is to alpha plus 1. That is, beta plus 1 is what? 2, gamma plus 1 is 3, and alpha plus 1 is 6. So x is to y is to z is 2 is to 3 is to 6. But if you notice the statement of the problem, we have to find out the values of x, y, z with least possible sum. We have to design x, y, and z in such a manner that x plus y plus z should be minimum. X plus y plus z should be minimum. So, in order to minimize their sum, we can take uh, x as 2, y as 3, and z as 6. So, x plus y plus z min is what? 3 plus 2, 5 plus 6, 11. And for this minimum sum, the rule of x is 2, the rule of y is 3, and the rule of z is 6. Hence, we are done. Now move to the next problem. And this is a geometry problem. And in this problem, we have given a triangle ABC with vertical angle A 60 degree. Let BE and CF be the bisectors of angle B and C with E on AC and F on AB. Let M be the reflection of A in the line EF, and we will prove that the image or reflection, we can say M lies on BC. This is a nice geometry problem. Okay, first I am going to draw the figure. We have given angle A 60 degree. Okay, this is the point A, B, and C. This angle bisector of angle B. This point is E. And this is a angle bisector of angle C. And this feet is F actually. Okay. Now we have to given M is a reflection of A in the line EF. This is the line EF. And M is a reflection of A in the line EF. Okay, we have to prove that M lies on BC. M lies on BC. Now, what we can do? First, we draw perpendicular A to the line EF. First, we draw perpendicular A to the line EF, and suppose this foot of perpendicular is N, and if we extend AN to the point M such that M lies on BC, M lies on BC, then M becomes the reflection of A with respect to EF if we prove that AN equals to NM. So this is actually the part of construction. So I want to write this one. Draw perpendicular from A to the line EF and extend it to point M where M lies on BC, where M lies on BC. Now we have to prove M is an image of A in the line EF. Then it is necessary to prove that AN equals to NM. Now to prove, what we have to prove? AN is equals to NM. That is, N is the midpoint. N is the midpoint of AM. Okay, this is actually the point of intersection of two interior angle bisector. Then definitely this is the in-center. This is the in-center. This angle is B by 2. This angle is C by 2. Then what is angle BIC? Angle BIC equals to 180 minus B by 2 plus C by 2. 180 minus B by 2 plus C by 2 is what? 90 minus A by 2. And this angle becomes 90 plus A by 2, but angle A is 30, therefore this angle becomes 120 degree. 120. If this angle is 120, then definitely this angle is also 120. And angle A is 60 degree. Okay, game start from now. Look at angle FIE 180, 120, and angle FAE is 60 degree. Therefore, we can say that the quadrilateral AFIA is cyclic quadrilateral, since angle FIE and this angle BIC is equal to, we can write angle FIE. Now we can write angle FIE plus angle FAE is equal to 180 degree, implies points A, F, I, E. A, F, I, E are concyclic. All 3 points are concyclic. Okay. And if these 4 points are concyclic, now I want to connect A with I, draw another angle bisector by the means of dotted lines. Okay. I want to draw a complete line segment AI. Then definitely AI is a third angle bisector than this angle. Angle FAI becomes what? This clearly A by 2. Then we can say that then angle FAI equal to angle FEI equals to A by 2, because both angles are made by the arc Fi of the circle. Therefore, both angles are equal, and this angle is A by 2. And what about this angle? This angle is B by 2. Therefore, what is the angle AFN? What is the angle AFN? What is the angle AFN? Where n is a foot of perpendicular from A on FE. Then in triangle AFN, angle AFN is actually the exterior angle for triangle BFE. So it is equal to sum of its interior opposite angle B by 2 plus C by 2. And if angle AFN is B by 2 plus C by 2, angle at N is 90 degree. Then what about this angle? Angle FAN. This will implies angle FAN. You have to focus on triangle AFN. This angle is clearly C by 2. This angle is B by 2, A by 2, sorry. And there is a mistake from my side. This angle is clearly B by 2 plus A by 2. Okay. And if angle FANC by 2, also I want to join points F and M, this one. Therefore, we can write angle, sorry, angle FAM equal to angle FCM. Angle FM equals to angle FCM equals to this angle is not, this is angle is actually C by 2, mistake from my side. This angle is actually C by 2. Angle FAM equals to FCM equals to C by 2. Therefore, we can say that points A, F, M, C are concyclic. A, F, M, C are concyclic. And if these 4 points are concyclic, then clearly we can write angle ACF. Angle ACF equal to angle AMF equals to C by 2. Angle made by the arc AF. You can see this angle is C by 2. So this angle is C by 2 because all these 4 points A, F, M, C, all 4 points are concyclic. Therefore, AF are made two angles at point C and point M, and both angles are equal. And with the help of this information, we can say that, okay, now AFN. So we can say triangle AFN is congruent triangle AFN is congruent triangle FNM. And if these two triangles are congruent, then clearly AN is equals to NM. That is N is the midpoint of AM. If N is the midpoint of AM, then clearly M becomes what? M is the image of A with respect to AF. Hence, we are done. Okay. Now move to the last problem. And this is a nice number theory problem. And in this problem, we have given a sequence an by the formula integral part of n upon integral part of root n for any real number. Okay. And we have to find out all n in the set 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 2010 for which this inequality holds true. Actually, we have to find out the number of values of n in this set 1, 2, 3 up to 2010 where this inequality holds true. An is greater than an plus 1. So in order to solve this question, first I want to write some starting terms of this sequence. If we put n equals to 1, then clearly the first term is 1. Put n equals to 2, and the second term becomes what? 2 upon integral part of root 2. Integral part of root 2 is 1. So the second term is 2. Okay. What about the third term? 3 upon integral part of root 3. 3 upon integral part of root 3. Root 3 is 1.732. So integral part becomes 1 and 3 upon 1 is 3. What is the fourth term? 4 upon 2. 4 upon 2 is 2. Okay. What about the fifth term? 5 upon root 5. And root 5 is 2.236. 2.23. 5 upon 2.5. And after taking integral part, it becomes 2. And what about the sixth term? 6 upon root 6 is again 2. 6 upon 2, that is 3. Seventh term, 7 upon 2, 3.5. So integral part becomes 3. Eighth term, 8 upon 2. 8 upon 2, that is 4. And what is the ninth term? Ninth term is 9 upon 3, that is 3. And so on. So this is the first term, this is A1, second term A2, third term A3, fourth term A4, fifth term A5, A6, A7, A8, A9. Okay, now you can check that this term, third term is greater than fourth term, 3 is greater than 2, and in the rightmost part you can see 4 is greater than 3, that is A8 greater than A9. So from this data we can write these two results. A3 is greater than A4 and A8 is greater than A9. Now you can observe, you can see 4 can be written as 2 square, 9 can be written as 3 square. So with the help of this work, we can say that this inequality can be true when n plus 1 becomes a perfect square. So we can say that an greater than an plus 1 holds true if n plus 1 is a perfect square and if n plus 1 is not a perfect square, then an is less or equals to an plus 1. Okay, so I am going to prove this result in general form. To prove the above statement, in general form, we can assign values to n between two consecutive squares. Okay, move to the next slide. So we can assign values to n from m square to m plus 1 square, that is m square plus 1, m square plus 2, m square plus 3, and up to so on, m square plus 2m plus 1. But we can take m square plus 2m. We have to show that this inequality holds true only if n plus 1 is a perfect square. And we can write the general term of this series. We can write the general term as n equals to m square plus k, where k is a variable quantity and lies between 0 to 2m. This one. Now for these values of n, I want to check the terms of the sequence. An is defined as n upon root n, so it becomes m square plus k upon uh, since each term for each term of the sequence um, each term of the sequence is less than m plus 1 square, actually lies between m square to m plus 1 square, so definitely we can write for a denominator as m. Therefore it becomes what it becomes m plus k over m, but m is an integer, so we can take it out, m plus k by m. And here k is a variable quantity, k moves from 0 to 2m. So I am going to make some cases. Uh, if k varies from 0 to m minus 1, then clearly this integral part becomes 0 and each term of the sequence becomes m. If k varies from m to 2m minus 1, then in this case each term this term becomes 1, this term takes the value 1, so each term of the sequence takes value m plus 1. And for last case, when k is equals to 2m, when k is 2m, then the term of the sequence is what, m plus 2. Okay, now if now you can see when k varies from 0 to m minus 1, all terms are m, and when k takes value in the next interval m to 2m minus 1, all terms of this sequence are greater than the previous term, and when k is 2m, then the value of the term is greater than the previous term. So for these values of n, the inequality is not true. An is greater than n plus 1 is not true. Now if we take n equals to m plus 1 whole square, then an is what? Then we can write an is put the value of n over here. This becomes m plus 1 whole square, and denominator we can write m plus 1. So this is cancelled out. So we can write an is what? M plus 1 for n is equals to m plus 1 whole square. So we have seen that. So we can say that an greater than an plus 1 holds true for, we can write here an minus 1 and here an, for n equals to m plus 1 whole square. Therefore the inequality an greater than n plus 1 is only true if n plus 1 is a perfect square. Since we have given the set 1, 2, 3 up to 2010, so so in this set uh, we are familiar with 45 square. 45 square is what? 45 square is 45 into 45, 5 5 the 25, 5 4 the 20, to 25, 5 4 the 20, 4 4 the 16, 18, 5 2 yeah, that is 2025. 45 square is 2025, which is greater than 2010. So there are only 44 terms lies 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 in the given set which are perfect squares. So n plus 1 can take 44 values. This implies n can take only 43 values, because n cannot be equal to 0. N plus 1 take values from 1, 4, n plus 1, something like that. 1, 4, 9, 16. And when n plus 1 is 1, then n is 0 and 0 is not allowed. So we subtract 1 from here. Overall, we can say that the given inequality only holds true for 43 values of n. And as we are done, thanks for watching.